Did somebody say Tapers, Chapter 11? To be fair, Tapers wasn't actually my number one place to be. A close second, maybe, but definitely not number one. Oh. Well, there's something weird going on with the scroll bar. But definitely not number one. That's a strange thing to say, but believe it or not, it's nowhere near exaggeration. No, only one room deserved first place. It was a shame, therefore, that I was now beginning to forget what it even looked like. All I remembered at this point was a cozy bed and a rather bright shade of green. Second place isn't horrible, so don't feel bad for Tapers. It's an accomplishment, really, to even be in my top 10 list of awesome places to be. If, however, I were to give a top 10 list for camper stores, Tapers would be number one for sure. There's no doubt about that. There's also no doubt that Cam Landar would be number 11, and I've only been to about 5 different camera stores in my life. For most people, Cam Landar would be number 1, and Tapers would be somewhere where they didn't have to look at it. I never quite understood why that was. Nevertheless, it was a good feeling to walk inside of the near-empty Tapers store with excellent music playing in the background, a terrific smell, admittedly coming from outside. A cheerful young lad sitting behind the counter in front of an enormous wall of cameras, all of which were excellent. "Good afternoon," I said to him. The music picked up my mood mid-sentence, and so naturally I put much more energy into the second word than I did the first. Like, good afternoon! I love this guy so much. I've seen people theorizing that they're the same guy as Marvin, and I'm like, I mean, I feel like that's impossible, but you know how Petscop is with his mindfuck, so why would Tapers be any different? But yeah, the clerk put down his magazine, which he had already read through 15 times. "Oh," he said, and picked the magazine back up. "Look," I said in a completely different tone, walking to the counter, "I'm having some problems here, and I have nobody else to talk to." "Yeah," he replied, reading intently. He found a brand new article in the magazine. Apparently a couple of the pages had been stuck together this whole time. It almost startled him when he discovered this. Again, I love this guy. The article... I love the... I mean, I guess I didn't say I love the counter guy too, but I just love everything about these sections. Oh my god. The story as a whole, especially the more serious parts, are really, really interesting and engaging, but like, nothing has topped Tapers yet. Oh, fucking Care kind of reminds me of like one of my friends. I tried to make her watch Petscop. It wasn't really her thing though, but she did like Care a lot, and I'm trying to like recommend she read this because this is much more her kind of thing than Petscop itself is. But I should probably finish it before I push more. Although she doesn't know that Care makes me think of her, at least like how she was in the past. So like, I should say that. Anyway. The article was about a small company named the Tapers. Supposedly, it was causing a great deal of confusion for a lot of people, and thus, they were immediately ordered to change the name. However, they had never actually complied with this demand, and so the confusion continued. The Tapers, it went on to say, was a small company that provided taping services. They taped things together for people who were afraid of getting it stuck to their fingers or something horrible like that. For someone who stood behind a counter all day and stared at the wall, this sounded like a lot of fun. "Are you even listening to me?" I asked. The clerk looked up in a shock. "What? Did you say something?" "Oh, no, nothing," I said. "Nothing at all." The clerk returned to reading his article. "But," I began, "if we had the choice of starting over right now, putting ourselves back to where we were only 30 seconds ago and doing things the right way, then I believe the right choice would be to do so." "What are you suggesting?" "You listening to me. That's what I'm suggesting." "You seem disgruntled." "Well, yes, I've been having issues," I said. I'm gonna pause this real quick. I need to do something. Alright, I was here. Yes, well, I've been having issues, as I said. Indeed, I had been. There's a part of me that seemed to have drifted away silently, leaving me alone with this world. Some part of me was already happy with my life, already okay with the fact that things were going downhill, but it was completely gone, and all I really had left was the door's lovely smile and the comforting music, both of which I could not enjoy anywhere but in Tapers. I also had a camera, but sadly nothing to film. I'm listening, then, said the clerk. He put down the magazine, but his mind wouldn't get off the fact that taping things together would be a pretty damn fun job. I sighed gloomily. So, yeah, I started slumping over the counter. I'm feeling worse and worse about myself. It's killing me. I don't know quite what to do about it. The clerk held his hand up and began to say something, but I interrupted. Oh, and, I said, I'm very sorry for snapping at you. You're cool. We're cool, okay? I might have read this chapter, because some of these are kind of like bumping in my mind. Like, it's like, this is familiar. I'm not sure, though. Okay, no, I'm pretty sure I've read this. It's just, not high in my memory. I couldn't have read much further than this. I know for a fact I never finished, though. But, yeah. He felt touched for a second, but the feeling went away soon after. I've been thinking about this for a while now, I said. It's tearing me apart, I feel like I may have made the wrong choice. Choice? He asked. He was sitting down now, though he wasn't allowed to be doing so. Employees at Tapers couldn't sit. That was perceived as a sign of laziness and an overall lack of enthusiasm. It would be a joke, though, for him to pretend that he cared about that rule. I say this because he didn't actually care about that rule. Yeah, I responded, and I screwed it up. I ruined 2 lives. The clerk didn't feel like his question was answered, but it didn't really bother him. He didn't know what was going on anyway. So, do you suggest I call her? I asked. Call who? My ex-wife. Do you even know what I was talking about? Well, actually, no. It began to rain outside. We both looked for a second and returned to our conversation. She doesn't like me very much, I said. But that's it, really. I want to do something about it. Then call her. Oh, I'm sure she'll hang up or something. Yeah, I would too. The sound of the rain reached its peak in volume, but slowly started to calm down. The clerk stood back up in fear of somebody finding out that he was sitting down. As much as he hated the rules, there were consequences for breaking them. I'm serious, I said. What do I do? Go to her house. They'll show her. Show her? I don't think you understand my intentions here. Well, what in the hell are they? I want to get back together, I said. That's it. That's all I want to do. He grinned for the first time ever. And then you'll give her a piece of your mind, he said excitedly. The grin on his face grew even wider. This is starting to make sense to me. I'm sure we can think of something. Oh my god. He was so wrong about my intentions, but I decided to give it a break. After all, he was about to help. Oh my god. I love this guy. I love the whole Taper story so much. If none of the other characters were present, aside from, this guy's view of them, like if this guy was the only view we had for the entire story, I would not complain one bit. Okay, I'd miss some of the Care perspectives. Like, Marvin and Care's mother are interesting, but like the main ones I'm really attached to are these guys and Care. So like, anyway, still wrong about it. Yeah, you're right. By the way, he continued. Women are a mess. This one doesn't sound any different. I can come over there with you if you want. Oh no, I said. It's alright. I'm good. If you say so, he replied, shrugging, but you need a damn sharp axe to replace me. I could lend you one. His new attitude began to disturb me. I hadn't expected this of him. I stepped back and shook my head. No, I said. I think I've got this covered, actually. You don't need help at all. Really? Really? In fact, I think I'm just going to go now, seeing as there's definitely nothing else in here I'm going to need. I started walking slowly in the opposite direction towards the door. The rain wasn't something I was looking forward to. Okay, said the clerk. You go take good care of that bitch. I closed the door. What the fuck? It's funny more than anything, honestly. It's just... Yeah! The life has been drained from her house. It was certainly there at one point when things were better, but it seemed that that was the past. There's a strange contrast between the house and the surroundings, like a thin barrier of nothing light between them. It makes sense. It makes sense for there to be a house there, because there's a house on one side and a house on the other side, and the space in between makes it look like there'd be a house there, but there's not. You could have easily forgotten the time, assumed it was midnight, and turned around to see the sun smiling as brightly as ever. It felt like this house was in constant disagreement with the world, like it wanted nothing more but to live its own life and not be subjected to the whim of the sun. There was indeed a contrast here, as the rest of the town was, at the time, pumping with happiness and activity. You couldn't have been in a better place, and I recognized this. In fact, on my way to this woman's house, I spotted at least 20 individuals dancing on the sidewalks, as if no other way existed to communicate one's satisfaction in life. One would be crazy to say that this town was boring, because it most definitely was not. In fact, even I couldn't help but feel happy. It was odd. As soon as I stepped outside, I was nearly blown away. A sudden burst of confidence rushed through my body like never before. I was going to meet her again. This was going to be the best day of my life. At the same time, it stopped raining. I was shocked but delighted at the same time. From that point forward, I told myself that I would stop questioning things, and indeed, I was successful at that. If only such a thing would have happened to the house, that poor house. My ex-wife lived there, as well as your sweet little daughter. Ah, yes, I remembered holding her once, but that was as far as I could bear to recall. Looking at that house, the black paint, the broken windows, everything you wouldn't want to see, I began to wonder what exactly could have happened. It worried me, but only served to boost my confidence. I felt like a hero running in to save the day. Having already knocked on this door a few days ago, I had a good idea of what to expect. I knew that nobody would answer it, but somehow this seemed worthwhile anyway. Her door was staring me down. It had an interesting design on it that looked kind of like a frown, not a good sign. I knocked, and then I waited. To my surprise, it didn't take long for me to begin hearing footsteps. I knew that they were indeed footsteps because I could see them as well. Through the large window next to me, I could clearly spot her in all of her beauty walking to the front door. I didn't think I could have possibly have gotten any happier, but guess what? It was happening. Though she didn't seem to bother looking out to see who it was. It had apparently escaped her that the window was there, which worked for me. If she had indeed looked out and saw me, then perhaps she wouldn't have answered the door at all. I was happy to rid my mind of that horrible frown on the door, for after the door had opened, it was brought out of my sight, and so it might as well have never existed. She stood there, staring forward, only to jolt back in surprise after the first second. "No," she said. "No, please, no." Hey, I said, waving awkwardly. It became silent for the next few seconds. "No," she repeated, shaking her head and stepping back. "Please go." That's not a good way to greet me. Aren't you going to say hello? "I'm serious. Leave. We don't need you." She was beginning to close the door, but I stopped her. "We, huh?" I said eagerly. "Where is she, anyway? I'd love to see her." She was looking around now, thinking what to do. I was making my first steps into the house, but she pushed me back. "Go away," she said. "Why would I do that? I just want to talk to you two." "I didn't actually mean we. That was a mistake. I meant me. Leave me alone." I smiled. "Good, you're talking now. Let's keep doing that." She wasn't paying complete attention at that moment. There were two other things on her mind. The first thing that she was thinking about was the fact that her daughter was still missing. In fact, that to her was the most significant thing. The other thing was just a slight annoyance. As I took my first steps into the house, she began hearing a strange cracking noise above her. She was willing to ignore that, though. She looked back at me. Yes, sure, she said. "Talking. You want to talk? I'll play your game. What are we talking about?" "Well, I'd love to talk to my daughter, too." "You can't." "Well, why the hell not? What gives you special permission? I'm her father, you know." She sighed. I have special permission. I can't talk to her either. What are you talking about? She went missing, she said, almost releasing all of her energy into that one statement. Damn, I did not convey that well. This nearly stunned me. What? I said. She's been gone for a while. The entire world seemed to speed up in front of me, or maybe it was just my own body and everything else was normal. In any case, it was a horrible feeling, and my good mood had been crushed. Well, what are we doing about this? I asked. I don't even know if she's still alive. There's no way of knowing. I just want to get on with my life for now. Look, I began. Why don't we go inside and talk about this? It's been years. She stood and thought about this. She wasn't very confident about letting me inside of her house. Okay, she said, nodding. She let me inside. And I walked inside. I looked around the house. The living room was a mess. The kitchen was a mess. The entire house looked like it had exploded, and every inch was covered with a thick layer of nightmares. These nightmares were the cause of many sleepless nights. I like what you've done with this place, I said. She looked around. Thanks, she replied, but she still couldn't get her mind off of that crackling sound. It was getting louder now and beginning to irritate her. Why don't we go into a different room? She asked, hoping to escape from the sound. Sure. We went to her bedroom, actually. It filled me with joy, as it used to be my bedroom as well, and thus was the one room I remembered the most of all of them. The cozy bed was what I mostly recalled. I also remember the walls, but they are significantly less green now. In fact, they weren't green at all, same with the rest of the house, completely black. But it didn't bother me a whole lot. She sighed again as we sat on the bed and continued talking. This place brings back memories, I said. Very exciting. I suppose. I looked up at her and tried to make a smile. It didn't really work, though, and it was probably closer to a frown now that I think about it. So what have you been doing for the past, 5 years? I asked. She didn't really like answering questions, so I remembered this fact clearly, but I decided that it was worth a shot. She thought for a second. Oh, you know, the normal parenting stuff. You? I'm guessing you made some sort of hobby out of scaring innocent children? What? You're chasing after Carrie with a camera. Is there something wrong with you? You don't have to answer that. I know it's true. I decided not to respond to that. It was too early to begin arguing about something so trivial. She wasn't angry at the moment, but definitely just as irritated as before. As much as she didn't want to believe it, the cracking sound had followed her into the bedroom. It was just a little bit more than she could bear. As it only got louder, she slowly and steadily lost her sanity. What's bothering you? I asked. She quickly snapped out of it, and I regained her attention. Oh, nothing, she said. I just have a madman in my house, that's all. There's definitely nothing wrong with me. Hey, calm down. It's alright. Alright? What do you think alright means? What alright even is? Was it just invented so that lunatics like you can calm people down before killing them? I don't think that's something I want to give into. I don't want to be alright. I'm fine the way I am. You don't really believe that. Maybe I don't. Maybe I do. All that matters is that I have nothing left. Not even a daughter. And now you're here. I can only imagine what you'd come for next, that even after you've already taken care for me. Are you being serious? I asked, standing up. Do you really think that I took her? She stood up as well. Yes, I do believe that. I believe that completely. There's no reason why I wouldn't believe that. I've got plenty of reasons. You've been stalking her, following her around, chasing her. She's a little girl. How do you want me to react to this? The noise was getting louder. It wouldn't stop. She felt like dying. Maybe she was already dead. It didn't make much of a difference to her at this point. You can react by sitting down and listening to me, I said. I don't feel completely safe doing that. I'm being honest right now. I think that you're going to kill me. And there's nothing you can do to make that feeling go away. You're a dangerous person. I was speechless. All I could do was stare at her. The crackling sound, however, wouldn't stop. She covered her ears. Get out! She screamed. I stepped back in surprise. Get out! You're destroying everything! Come on, you have to. It's falling apart! Get out! What's falling apart? There's nothing. You're ruining everything! Please! The noise grew. There is no limit. Get out of this house! Get out! She said. If you don't leave, bad things are probably going to happen. Leave! Sorry, I know I'm not doing good voice work. It's fucking like 1:30 a.m. I don't want to be that loud. I started walking out of the room, but only out of pure fear, not because she was ordering me to. I could almost feel the house falling apart, even though it wasn't actually happening. Her voice was ringing in my head, and the pure chaos almost made it feel like the world was going to end. I'm leaving, I said. Leave! She screamed. I said I'm leaving. I closed the door, exiting the house. And after that, it was completely silent. She was lying on the floor at this point, but soon realized the silence and got up. It felt like the universe had collapsed into itself, and this was the aftermath. And yet, everything looked completely normal. The cracking sound was gone. The madman was gone. She was breathing heavily, but otherwise was very calm. It was all over. No more danger. It had been her fear for years to be caught up in this sort of situation, but luckily nothing bad happened. She was safe. It took her a while to get used to the quiet again. As she was walking out of her room, she stepped on something, and as she walked back to check it out, she stepped on another one. Below her, all over the floor, everywhere, chunks of black paint. On the bed, on top of every table, every shelf, it was everywhere. Quite naturally, she looked up at the ceiling. Yes, no wonder. The black paint certainly wasn't on the ceiling anymore, or at least a great deal of it wasn't on the ceiling. What remained was a layer of bright green paint. Whoa. Fucking wild. I'm enjoying this. I am enjoying this a lot. But that was chapter 11. Next up will be chapter 12. Care. We're seeing school again, I think. Oh boy.